And welcome back to the First and Goal podcast, live in person from Houston. We are together filming on this special edition for the playoff predictions wildcard round, Laraib 2024. Clean slate. We are here picking, you won the regular season, I'll give you that. But we are here to pick the playoff games, the real prize, who's going to leave champion, and it all starts here on Super Wildcard Weekend, Laraib. How you doing, first off?
Oh, doing awesome. Of course, great to have you here in Houston. And then we got 6 games on the Super Wildcard Weekend. A lot of good ones and maybe a couple stinkers. But let's just go ahead and dive right in, Lewis, with the first game on Saturday. The Cleveland Browns coming back to Houston to play the Texans. Cleveland -2. And of course, the big thing from last time these two teams plays, Nico Collins and CJ Stroud in this one, Lewis. Who do you like in this game?
Well, Laraib, I've been going back and forth on this one because both these teams are kind of enigmas at this point in the season. I believe the Texans won a pretty winnable division, but that's what you get when you host a playoff game. And I do believe in CJ Stroud and this offense whenever they play, but it's just been so choppy recently because of the inactives from, you lose Tank Dell for the season. A guy like Nico Collins has been in and out of the lineup, and things have looked choppy without your main guys. So you're going up against this Cleveland defense, which has been sensational all season long. They've had a lot of injuries, especially in the back end, but it really hasn't burned them that much, unless, games that really didn't matter for them. So this game's ultimately going to come down to, in terms of that matchup, it's going to come down to CJ Stroud making plays in third down. And with Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz has been playing well. I think they will be able to make the requisite plays. I think this will be a low-scoring game, though. So ultimately, it's going to come down to quarterback mistakes. CJ Stroud has not made a lot of mistakes, even as a rookie this year. So I expect, even in the playoffs, he plays a pretty clean game, Laraib, which turns it over to the other quarterback, Joe Flacco. And how do you think he's going to play against this Houston defense?
Well, Joe Flacco off to a really hot start. We haven't seen him have a bad game yet, and of course, he got to sit out last week. But we know the curse this year. You come in as a starter and you play 3 good games, and then boom, you turn into a pumpkin. And I think that's what happens to Joe Flacco in this game. I think last time he came in, threw for over 300 yards, 250 of those going to Amari Cooper. But in this one, Texans at home, CJ Stroud back. Even in that game against the Colts, Nico Collins was back, but still they were missing Noah Brown, John Mechie III. They still had a lot of guys out. But now Dalton Schultz and Nico Collins are healthy again with CJ Stroud. I think at home, they're just a completely different team. That defense plays different when they're at home. I think Derek Stingley's having one of the best seasons by a cornerback this year, and he got snubbed from the Pro Bowl. I think the Texans handle business
Well,
at
that was the
home.
Pro Bowl hasn't come out yet. That was the Players Pro Bowl. Or no, Pro Bowl. You're right.
Pro
I thought
Bowl.
about All Pro. All Pro is the real cream of the crop, if you ask me. Pro Bowl is just your hi, how you doing? Um, but yeah, and that first matchup, Joe Flacco throws for over 368 yards. He has 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions though, and I think that will be the thing in this game is because when he first entered the lineup for the Browns, he was playing super free, super carefree. I'm just here to have fun. I'm just going to chuck the ball. Now you're in the playoffs. Now you have expectation as well. And the way this D'Amico Ryan's defense has been playing, especially getting after the passer. Yes, the Browns have a good offensive line, but Joe Flacco on the run, making plays, extending things, I don't necessarily trust that much. Versus CJ Stroud, a lot of the themes and how I'm looking at these playoffs, Rob, and how I've seen the last few weeks of the season go, the better quarterback has won. Now, not in all situations, and I'm not necessarily going to go that for every single game, but in these adverse situations where you need something, I believe CJ Stroud is better than Joe Flacco. Am I crazy for saying that? So I think I'm going to die on this hill. Joe Flacco will return to pumpkin status that we've seen from him. Expectations. He's definitely gonna give the Texans opportunities. And you mentioned it. They have playmakers who can take advantage of those opportunities on defense. So it's just about, can you contain Amari Cooper? Now you have Denzel Ward. Not Denzel Ward, excuse me. You have Jimmy Ward. You have Derek Stingley, like you mentioned. You have good, Jalen Petrie. You have good secondary pieces. You just, that was a whiff last game. I highly doubt that D'Amico Ryan is going to let that happen again in this game. And I feel like that's the Browns' biggest chance to explode on offense. So if they can take away or just limit that passing attack between Amari and Joe, I feel like they can get the job done, Rob.
Yeah, just one thing of concern for me for this Texans team, Lewis, is that rush defense. We saw last week and what potentially could have been a game-winning drive for the Colts was Jonathan Taylor getting the ball and going for 5-6 yards every single play. If Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt have that type of holes for them this weekend, it's going to be a long game for the Houston Texans. But I think the Texans in their first game back at home in a couple of years, CJ Stroud as a rookie young quarterback takes his Browns team to a victory at home. I'm going to go 24-21 as a late Miami Fairbairn field goal puts the Texans up.
Well, Laraib, we're going to start off this playoffs with an agreement because I also think sitting here in H-Town, in Houston, with, seeing the environment, all the fans ravenous for a playoff win with their rookie quarterback, they get it done. Joe Flacco turns back into a pumpkin, and the Texans win in a lower scoring game. Texans 23, Browns 17. And honestly, it doesn't feel that close. That's my hot take. Anyway, Laura, let's go ahead and move on to our second game of Saturday. We have the Miami Dolphins traveling to Kansas City to face the Chiefs. Chiefs favored by 4.5 on Peacock. So make sure you load up your streams. Let's load up whatever you watch your football on because who has Peacock? Anyway, Chiefs favored by 4.5 here. 0-degree weather is what's being reported right now with a high chance of snowfall for this game. And if there's any team in this whole playoff field that I feel the least confident can go and play in snow, probably the team in Miami, Laraib. So how do you think the weather is going to affect the Miami offense and their game plan?
It's going to be huge. I mean, if it's snowing out and Tua's unable to throw the ball downfield like he likes to, usually to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, if he's playing in this game, it's just going to be really, really difficult for them to air it out. Now, their rushing attack's been on and off all year, but I think if Raheem Mostert comes back in this game and they're really able to slice and dice this Chiefs defense on the ground, that'll put them in great position. Now, it sucks to have to play against Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, which is why I think the Chiefs are clear favorites in this game, and I think that 4.5 is a little low, in my opinion.
The things that would that I've been wary about for the Chiefs all season long. The Chiefs' offensive line has not been that good. The Chiefs' receivers have a problem with drops and just getting open in general. And the Chiefs' defensive line really can't get great outside pressure. Well, the Dolphins really don't have a lot of remedies for any of those because the Dolphins' pressure is not great with guys, going down all the time. Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips. Their secondary really, outside of Jalen Ramsey, who is he going to guard? Travis Kelce? Like, who do you put him on? Rashee Rice? It's going to be a lot of underneath Isaiah Pacheco, especially. So the biggest thing for me is how is the Dolphins' run defense going to step up in the cold, which they've been pretty up and down. They had a pretty good outing, I would say, against James Cook. They just allowed Josh Allen to get off on a few big runs, which what we know from Mahomes in big playoff spots is he uses his legs. So sneaky best bet, Mahomes over on rushing yards in this game could be very interesting. But I think it's going to be a lower scoring game because of the weather and because both these offenses are just very not playing up to their level right now. And to flip it over to the Miami side, you think that with the way they can and what we've seen from them in the rushing attack, you get Mostert back this week. And did you say Waddle? Waddle will be back?
I think he's playing in this game.
But there's no way he's 100%. But he will play in this game. So at least that adds another element to this Dolphins offense. But you'd think with their ability to run the ball, their outside running ability, that should favor them in this matchup. But the Chiefs defense has been very good against the run all season long. Nick Bolton will be playing in this game. So it really will come down to, can Tua make plays against Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City? I do not think he'll be able to, Larob.
Yeah, and I have to agree. Like you said, Patrick Mahomes, this is the type of games where he just completely steps up. He'll break down one tackle and take it for 25 yards a down and just takes the air out of the defense. I mean, he's going to be flying all around the field in this one. I think Patrick Mahomes, lets us know why this Chiefs team has been Super Bowl winners for the past couple of years. And I think the Chiefs dominate this one 26-17 at home.
Yeah, I got to agree with you here. I think the Chiefs win this. I don't think they score that many points, but, as long as they hold the opponent to under 21, they've won every game this year. But if the opponent scores more than 21, they've lost every game this year. So I'm going with the Chiefs. I'm going 24-20. Chiefs don't cover at home, but it's lower scoring. It'll be a pretty entertaining game. I'll say that in the snow, but Chiefs win another home game, maybe their last home game of this playoff stretch. But we'll see about that because now we move over to Sunday where you have these 7-seeded Steelers traveling to Buffalo to face the Bills, largest line of the week, and this will be a 10-point line for the Bills. Mason Rudolph at quarterback. They've looked like a better offense with him in at quarterback, but going to Buffalo against this season playoff team who has a clear goal in mind, whereas the Steelers kind of feel like we're happy to be here. Only one less win on the season, though. Why is this such a large disparity in the line?
Well, Lewis, just because how well the Buffalo Bills have been playing to close out the season. This was a team that was technically not supposed to make the playoffs, but just I think maybe less than 20% chance midway through the season to make it. And now they're sitting here at the 2 seed. Josh Allen has really cleaned up some of those bad turnovers. Well, maybe not all of them, as we saw in that Miami game. But now they're facing the Steelers team, like you mentioned, who's just happy to be here. This is a team that was 3% chance to make the playoffs as well. And they just got to sneak in somehow. But now they face the buzzsaw and the Bills. And I think even if Josh Allen has a bad game, turns over the ball a lot, you just don't really see the Steelers offense keeping up with this Bills team.
Well, I would argue that this Bills team all season long has just played to the level of its competition. No matter where, no matter who, no matter how good or how bad a team is, they played at a level. So wherever you think the Steelers are, the Bills cannot sleep on the Steelers team. No TJ Watt. You're playing a third string quarterback in Mason Rudolph, who arguably is their best quarterback. I would make that argument. But I mean, what kind of game, like you mentioned, are we going to get from Josh Allen? Because you can say they played well. You know, they ended the year 5-0. They did exactly what they needed to get in this spot to have the 2 seed. But at the same time, you know, they did not play well in a lot of these games going down. You saw the awful turnovers in the last game. You saw against the Patriots and the Chargers, 2 teams who were just out of it completely. Too tight, like way too close of games. So now at home against the Steelers, I feel like they win, but 10 points is way too big of a line for me against a well-coached Steelers team. You know, Mike Tomlin, he's back, winning record. But I'm going to go with the Bills in a close game. It sucks TJ Watson on this game because that would really add a huge element to the Steelers defense, like a playmaking element that could really flip this game. But I just think the lack of explosiveness on both sides of the ball for the Steelers is really going to hurt them in this game. So I am going to go with the Bills in a lower scoring game, giving the Bills 26 to Steelers 17.
Yeah, listen, if you think back to last year when this Bills team was at home against a Miami team who was also without Tua and they had to play Skylar Thompson in that game was really close for this Bills team. And I think once again at home in a spot against a team where they're expected to blow them out, I think they keep it a 1-possession game, but they still win pretty good at home against a bad Steelers team. If Najee Harris and Jalen Warren can have a great rushing attack and keep this Bills offense on the sideline, that may give the Steelers some hope. But I think the Bills, this is a big year for their head coach, Sean McDermott. If he can't get it done, there's a lot of new head coaches on the market that could be looking at this stacked Bills team saying, hey, maybe I could do some magic. Could do some magic over here. But I'm going to go ahead and pick the Bills 26-20 as the Steelers cover, but the Bills get a good win at home.
Yeah, you mentioned something interesting with the rushing attack with Harris and Warren, because we have seen them rush the ball a lot better in the past few weeks. So that could be another element, but I just don't think they have the home run hitters to really do anything. There's going to be a lot of long drives where I feel like this Bills defense does very well on the bend, don't break type of defense. And I just don't think the Steelers have the weaponry to capitalize in a lot of those situations. But let's go ahead and move on to our second game of the Sunday slate. We have the Green Bay Packers traveling to Dallas to face them boys. Dallas favored by 7 at home. Dallas undefeated at home this season. Average margin of victory, 16 points a game against teams in their building. You know, the Packers got in at 9-8. They've had a choppy up and down into the season, but Jordan Love he's got a little bit better. The defense, though, don't really know what to expect from Joe Barry in this group, Laraib. So let's start on that side of the ball. What can Dallas do at home to exploit this Packers defense?
Well, they just need to stop one man and one man only. If they can slow down CeeDee Lamb and really disrupt Dak Prescott and his main target, that's going to be their key to victory. Now, Tony Pollard, it was supposed to be a breakout year for him, has not really shown to be that guy. Now, Brandon Cooks has been a solid number 2, but this offense runs through CeeDee Lamb. And so if they shut him down, which no one has managed to do this year, the Packers are in a good spot. But like I just mentioned, if no one has done it that this year, and I don't see this Packers team being the one to do that.
I mean, they have talented secondary players. Obviously, Jair Alexander, when he has his head on straight, is a very talented corner. But my problem with this Packers team is the middle of their defense, which is just very, very weak. Now, a lot of what the Packers have been being exposed by this year has been very talented run games. They have been run on the most of any playoff team left in this field. But what goes into their favor is this Cowboys team has not been able to run the ball whatsoever. So that is a concern for me, is how successful can the Cowboys run game be in this game, just to eat innings, chew clock, keep your defense fresh in a playoff game so you can play smart, conservative football. But, there's just so many elements to this Cowboys offense. And if Dak is able to get outside the pocket and make plays with his legs, which the Packers, they get really aggressive on pass rushing attempts. Rashawn Gary, they have pretty good edge rushers, but it's just about getting, Preston Smith as well. Getting to Dak, getting him down, which I feel like they will struggle with. And when Dak has been at his best is when he's been out of pocket, out of structure. We saw that 90-yard touchdown that he had to CeeDee Lamb against the Lions. It's when he's making plays and being creative. And I think that he'll have a lot of chances to do that in this game. And then they'll prove to be successful, Laraib. But I want to ask you, flipping it on to the other side, Jordan Love, up and down season, finished it strong. What do you expect of him against this Cowboys defense?
I think he's really going to struggle. Like you said, this Cowboys team undefeated at home and 16 points of margin at home. I just think they're going to be all over him. I think they have a lot to do, a lot to prove this year. Now they're at home with a 2 seed. They're just going to dominate this Packers offensive line, who's been beat up all year. Micah Parsons, a great game from him, I'm expecting. And of course, this Cowboys defense, different team at home. Dan Quinn potentially, Lewis, putting on a show for some teams when he wants to be the head coach somewhere else. And so this Cowboys defense, I expect them to be flying all over
Seattle. Uh-oh. We'll talk about that in a later episode. But yeah, I think this Cowboys defense, the biggest thing for me is can they get pressure with 4? Micah Parsons, one-man wrecking crew. They have good guys on the interior. And they can get run on. We also have seen this Cowboys rush defense is not that good. But do I trust the Packers run game? Aaron Jones had a pretty good game in his last 2 games against the Vikings and against the Bears. 2 mad defenses. So how will they attack this Cowboys? They're going to start with the run because that opens up a ton for the Matt LaFleur offense, kind of Kyle Shanahan, similar vein. But how successful will they be in this game? I feel like they're going to be down a lot in this game. They're going to have to abandon the run. It's going to be forced Jordan Love, on the road playoff atmosphere to make a ton of plays. And I agree with you. I think he is going to struggle in a lot of these spots. So I do favor the Cowboys in both sides of the ball in this game. The only thing that concerns me is that it is the Cowboys. It is the playoffs. And for Cowboys fans, it's the Packers. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys in this game. I think they're going to win pretty handily too. But there is always that lingering doubt with this Cowboys team. But I do not have it in this spot. I'm going to go Cowboys 41 to Packers 17. Huge opening statement at home in this playoffs.
I agree with you. This is going to be a great game for the Cowboys. They always do well in the first week of the playoffs when they don't have to play anybody good. But when week 2 comes around, then we start to see who they really are. But in this one, I agree. Cowboys win big at 31-20 as they dismantle this Packers team at home.
All right, Laraib, let's go ahead and move on to arguably the game of the entire wild card week. You have the Los Angeles Rams and Matt Stafford returning to Detroit to face the Lions. Lions are favored by 3 points at home. This is Matt Stafford's first time going back to Detroit. And what a bittersweet moment for Detroit fans. Just your first home playoff game and who knows how long. But it's against Matt Stafford, the man you loved for years and years, and you watched win the Super Bowl with the Rams, and nothing you would want more than for him to not fail, but it's at the expense of your team. So obviously you're rooting for the Lions in this one. Let's start there with Matt Stafford. How does he play against the Detroit defense?
I think he's going to play awesome. We saw Cooper Kupp have a rest game last week, and also Puka Nacua, I think early third quarter after he broke the rookie receiving and reception record. He was also done. So they're going to be really rested up, Lewis. Kyron Williams also didn't play much in that game. And that's going to be the big part for this Rams team. It's going to be their offense. Now, on the defensive side, they have some playmakers like Aaron Donald and Ahkello Witherspoon. But it's going to be on Matt Stafford to lead this team and Sean McVay's brain trust to kind of put this game and this scheme together against a really good Lions team.
Now, you alluded to it when you said the strategies of these two teams last week when they basically had their playoff spots locked and playing guys, not playing guys. And we saw Dan Campbell play his guys because there is that chance that the Cowboys and the Eagles, if they were to lose, then you could have, elevated to the 2 seed, but it was a far cry chance. And we saw, Laporta go down. We saw Khalif Raymond get injured in that game. And, what's the safety's name? Rookie out of Brian Branch. We saw him get a little banged up too. He did re-enter the game. So meanwhile, you bring up Sean McVay, who's never played guys in the preseason. He's always very laissez-faire. Don't play guys if you don't need to. We're going to keep our guys healthy for the big moments. And I think that plays a factor in this game because Sam Laporta has been so huge for this Lions offense. And as good as Jared Goff and, this whole staff, Ben Johnson, the guys, this offense played all year long, I feel like Sam Laporta has just been such a huge first down guy, threat offensively, that just a luxury that they didn't have last year, which allowed them to do so much more on the offensive side. But now that takes it away, and you become a lot easier to defend against a pretty good, young defense with the Rams. Obviously you got Aaron Donald in the middle, but Kobe Turner, rookie out of Memphis, I think. I don't know what college he is. Memphis sounded pretty good off the top of my tongue. But he has 9 sacks this year, leading all defensive players, and especially as an interior lineman, that's pretty impressive. And a lot of just guys chipping in on different sides. Now, it's going to be a tall task because the biggest thing for me in this game is how will the Lions be able to run the ball? Because if the Lions control the lines of scrimmage on both sides, I think they win this game. But this Rams team, ultimately for me, it comes down to the quarterbacks. And there's a reason why Sean McVay went with Matt Stafford for moments like this, for adverse moments when you're on the road against a raucous crowd. Matt Stafford has shown the ability to be able to get it done. Jared Goff, with the pressure, with the expectation, has floundered before, and he has made mistakes. So I'm going with the McVay-Stafford brain trust in this game, the upset in Detroit. It feels evil because of how much the Lions fans have wanted this for so long. But I think the Rams, with all those offensive pieces, the defense that's just going to do just enough. Look, they're 7-1 in their last 8 games. The one loss is to Baltimore in overtime off a punt return touchdown. This Rams team has been on fire to end the season. And even if Stafford goes down, you have Carson Wentz as your backup quarterback, who's more than capable to lead a great championship-esque team, which we've seen in the past. So I have a lot of faith in this Rams team to not only win this game, to maybe go even a little further in this playoff round. But we'll talk about that next week. But I like the Rams in this spot. You agree?
And I have to disagree. I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions. Now, I agree with everything you said. Sam Laporta is just that safety blanket for Jared Goff, right? Whenever he needs someone to bail him out, whenever you need that big target for you in the red zone, it's going to be Sam Laporta. And without him, I think this Lions offense is going to come down a notch. But with that being said, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs have been the premier 1-2 running back duo this year in the league. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, as someone who was also Pro Bowl snubbed, who's having an outstanding season, I think he's going to go in there and just have an amazing game. Now, of course, the big thing is on Matt Stafford and his return to Detroit, who do not count out Jared Goff and his matchup against Sean McVay in this one. This is Jared Goff who led this Rams team to a Super Bowl and still, didn't live up to expectations over there in Los Angeles. I think he's going to have a ton to play for in this game. And, of course, their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, also has a lot to play for in this game because he's going to want to go in for a head coaching job this offseason. And so I think this Lions team at home, maybe you can say all the numbers don't go in their favor. They haven't been as hot as this Rams team, but I just think the heart of Detroit, this is a city that deserves a playoff win at home. I think they get it done in this one.
All right. What's your score?
My score, I think this is going to be a fun, high-scoring game. I'm going to go 31-28 as a late Cam Dicker field goal. I think that's his name. Puts the Lions ahead.
Matt Prater?
Matt Prater does not play for the Lions anymore.
Oh. Who's their kicker? Anywho, I'm going with the Rams in this game because I know Matt Gay will hit the kicks. 35-31. huge best game of the weekend. And I don't have any problem with saying that, knowing that Monday night we have another playoff game with two of the worst teams in the NFL. You have the Philadelphia Eagles traveling to Tampa to face the Bucs. Talk about two teams where you feel pretty awful right now where you're at in the playoffs, especially if you're an Eagles, member, fan, season ticket holder, whatever. You feel pretty awful right now. Eagles favored by 3 points on the road, Laraib. Do we know, first off, do we know Baker Mayfield's status? I assume he's playing, but he did get really banged up. In the Saints game, we saw him get banged up, and then he was limping around in that Carolina game as well. So it says here that he is, he's not on the injury report, and, he's a tough guy. He's played through injuries before, and a lot of times it has burned him in the past. But if Baker Mayfield is good to go and he plays 100% of what you think Baker Mayfield would play, who do you favor in this matchup?
I still have to go with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, it does scare me if Baker Mayfield is at 100%, which we know he's not. If he's able to throw those deep bombs to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, that really gives you cause for concern. But this Bucs team, Lewis, is kind of limping into the playoffs, and they won this division after beating a lowly Panthers team in what could have been a home Saints game instead of a home Bucs game in this one. But I think the Eagles, the pedigree goes in their favor. They have a couple guys questionable, but I think this Bucs team, who's been up and down, kind of just falls apart at the seams in this one.
Yeah, well, AJ Brown not playing in this game with the knee injury from last week. And then you have guys questionable, like you mentioned, Sidney Brown ACL injury from last week as well. So if Baker Mayfield is at 100%, I'm picking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win this game because you give me Godwin, you give me Mike Evans against this awful, and I mean awful, Philadelphia defense. Baker Mayfield will have a show, and Jalen Hurts is, dealing with a finger injury, a knee injury, a bunch of stuff. AJ Brown's out. We see D. Smitty's questionable. So what? You telling me Jalen Hurts with one hand and Julio Jones is beating this Tampa defense, which has been playing very well for the most part. They still have that front interior that's, good rushing defense. And we saw these teams when they first played. I will say the Eagles were able to run the ball all down the field. DeAndre Swift had one of his best games of the entire season. But for me, the biggest thing about that game was the offensive line was getting such an amazing push. And we haven't seen that. They've completely ditched that from their early season. Their big thing was what? It was running the ball. DeAndre Swift. He's going to be the focus. And then it was like, okay, scrap that. AJ Brown. We're going to go huge air raid. AJ Brown's going to dominate. And then it was, okay, teams figure that out as well. I guess we push every other play, and we'll see how that goes. And now it's just, what do they do well? It feels like it's nothing right now. At least Tampa, if Baker is playing, and I'm putting a lot of faith into Baker can play at least 90% in this game, he will be able to take advantage of this Philly team and just send them home and send Nick Sirianni home as well. That'll be another hot take.
And that's the big thing. Was Nick Sirianni also playing for a head coaching job now? Todd Bowles, I think his ass is gone no matter what the result of his game is.
Unfortunately,
because
he coached very well this season, I will say.
Well, I mean,
but you just can't keep.
They had a solid defense, so with a lot of veteran guys on there, and of course, Baker Mayfield is always going to have his ups and downs. But he did a solid job. But it's time to move on to someone more young and new over there in Tampa Bay. So in this game, I think the Philadelphia Eagles do what they do best. Run the damn ball with Nick Sirianni.
What they do best.
DeAndre Swift.
What they did best.
Boston Scott, Jalen Hurts, push. All that is because they're going to be scratching and clawing in this game, Lewis. I think they just want this game a lot more and need it a lot more than Tampa Bay does. I think Jalen Hurts, masterclass, but they somehow pull it out in the end. Give me the Eagles 17-14. A late field goal wins it.
Gosh, I mean, this game is going to be atrocious. You mentioned it. Give me the Bucs. I'm going Bucs 16-13. Ugly game, but it's the playoffs, so we're going to be watching it. We're going to be watching every second of this NFL playoff slate, and we are so excited to break it all down with you in next week's episode. And a ton of NFL news just happened this week, including today. Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll gone, Mike Vrabel gone. All these coaching opportunities have opened up all over the league, and we are super excited to break all of that down, including these 6 games. And then we look forward to the divisional round next week. 4 more awesome games on the schedule. Rob, anything else you want to say before we head out of here?
Yeah, as things start to heat up here in the playoffs and as the season winds down, we hope you guys stick with us for all new NFL content. But without further ado, I think that's the First and Goal podcast signing off.
H-Town.